Okay, guys, welcome to the next episode of A Cup of What's Up. This is podcast number 2, and this one is going to be a solo one right now. But right now, we're going to get into the big topic that I really has just been on my chest for various of different like spectrums of society and where we're at. And I just feel like hopefully, I'm gonna be able to conclude that to my main point and ultimately get you guys to understand where I'm coming at. But you already know what it is. This is Roy Savage, guys, and we're gonna jump right into it once I find the notepad. Okay, there it is. So, guys, for our first topic, straight up, we're gonna get into music. So when I say music, it's gonna be very generic, and I'm gonna try to narrow it down. But basically, man, you gotta take it in right now. What's going on with the music industry? So as we all know, sorry, as we all know, rap or hip hop or whatever you want to call it, that's what's dominating the industry right now. That's what's pulling. You have radio stations who only played rock. Like I think it's Z1035. I remember it's like if that ever came on while you're switching to the radio, if you're not someone into rock and that type of stuff, that's the network, that's the radio station you used to just skip over, right? You just skip over that one. But now they be playing and doing interviews with rappers, hip hop. Everyone's on the wave because money. At the end of the day, if it makes money, we're going for that. I may not like the music. I don't mess with the culture. But if it flips $1, I'm about it. And that, to a certain degree, is okay when you're talking business. But when you're talking morally, that's not the way to go. And that's kind of where it's going to be at for the majority of the video. It's like corporate mind than the moralistic mind. It doesn't mix. It's water and oil. You know what I mean? It's water and it's fire and ice. You know what I'm trying to say? So, with that being said, you got to take in the progression, or it's not even a progression, but just how the industry has moved on. But at the same time, it's not a progression. It's gotten worse in a sense. So the main, as I told you guys, the main video. It's gonna be the topic's gonna be the 2000s versus like now, like 2018. And 2018 in its own has been like a hashtag. It's been like a phrase, and it's been a phrase to name many changes that have gone on from back then till now. For one example, the fact that we can't say anything without being ripped apart by the internet, right? And then we always say 2018, right? Just when you say 2018, instantly you get it, and that's a problem in its own. But to get back to the point, back in the days, you got to remember rock kind of like ruled the industry because you have like your top industry people who kind of run the music are like your upper what do you call them, white collar, like white individuals. And when rock was big, you're gonna push your own music that your people influence naturally. So it's like if white people are running the industry and they have the money, then the rock music, if that's your music or you're gonna for your people, then that's what you're gonna push. Plus, the majority of North America, they always say you want to gain the white audience, because the people that fuck with you, if you're like Filipino and you have Filipino on a Spanish, you have a Spanish audience, black, you have a black audience. End of the day, everyone always tries to gain the white audience, because you're gonna be, it's the perception that you're gaining that big pocket of money. So rock at the time when it was dominating, it was doing its thing, but I always kind of looked at it as everyone kind of always knew rap was better. It just didn't have the same. It didn't have the same. What do you call it? It didn't have the same clout as rock, and it wasn't being pushed up until the point where we kept pushing, and the consensus eventually got there because it was obvious it was eventually gonna happen. Rap, hip hop was better. Rock kind of derived. Let's be honest, rock derived. Started to really form into what is rap. They got more lyrical in rock, as I noticed, because I grew up in an area where a lot of people listen to rock and stuff. And I always said, rap is eventually gonna take over. And when it did, guys, look where it's at now. Like look where the float's at. It's almost like ultimately we wanted hip hop and rap to conquer and dominate the industry. And now that it has, it's almost as if it got there, but it was stripped of itself when it got there towards the end. Like through the battle of getting to the top, is it really even rap or is it hip hop? That's what I'm kind of getting at. It's like for what it is, like writing lyrics, having that beat, the flow, the melody, like what we know is rap, what we know is hip hop is there, but what it stood for is no longer there. Look at the content. And I get it. In this new age, we want to be listening to the beat, feeling the melody more so than the lyrics. And there are people that do still appreciate the lyrics like myself. And to add to that, there's also an appreciation to good lyrics with a good beat. But for the most part, guys, we could just play an instrumental and not even really care that you know the lyrics are there. You have Metro Booming's album with some sick instrumentals, with some sick tracks with sick lyrics, you know, and then they complement each other on the album. But when he has his other half when it's just instrumentals, I realize sometimes that instrumental will just play through, and then my headphones are in my ear, and I'm not even really tripping over the fact that there's no lyrics. It's just kind of the melodies going through. I'm bumping my head and I'm going through my day. I'm doing what I have to do. And even more so to a benefit, you don't have the lyrics clouding your head. So in some ways, we're digesting music. Like, I just want it to kind of complement my day, complement my vibe, more so than actually gaining something from the content. And that's why a lot of music now doesn't have any longevity. It lacks longevity because it's just on, you know, we could argue about just about flipping a bag, you know, getting those views and streaming. We'll get into that. But for the most part, if it lacks that quality of lyrics and there's nothing to gain from the song, then you're just going for the sound. And as we all know, when you go for the sound dies out. You get bored of sound. Lyrics, a deep message is something that lives on. And that's why music had such power before, because it was a deep message that would only really be listened to because you had that sound to complement it. So it's like, I know you're not going to hear me want to do, you know, spoken word, you know, because not a lot of people are into that. But if I throw a beat on it and, you know, I kind of make a melody to my words, now it's like you gain that message and it comes through in the art of like music, you know what I mean, kind of thing. But now that we switched it up, there's no message. So once you get bored of the sound, you want something else. And I believe that's why there's no longevity in music. And a lot of artists now are forced to just pump shit out until it's, you know, what they believe it's something good. But because of this, and that's that, you know, how to change that. Obviously, get more, promote more lyrics in music, but the people controlling it are changing the narrative. And that's not a conspiracy. If you control the money, you control the actions, then you're ultimately the reason why we're digesting whatever we're digesting. And if what we're digesting isn't right and it's not being changed because it doesn't want to be changed. And you'll see it with the artists that are lyric strong, never really come out as big as like a Little Pump who's just really throwing out something that sounds good, right? And that also ties into where I was getting with the streaming thing, and that like everyone's just trying to fill up a bag. You know, if your sound sounds good enough people want to listen to it through their ear, like just without even knowing, like subconsciously basically, then your streams are pulling through because that person just listens to that song over and over again, then you get more money. So you kind of just lose that need for change, you know. And then there was the ultimate problem of people start liking you based off your struggle music, and then when you make it, your music changes and becomes shitting on people, you know. You just get to talking like everybody else, and not a lot of rappers are able to, you know, alter from that, and it just kind of just falls into the flow of everyone else, right? So originally you would have to watch out for that. Now you have all this other stuff. It just kills the industry. And the murderer here is the corporate mind. Just that money mind state is ultimately the disease that's killing the artistry and the love, you know, in music. And I'm gonna leave it at that with music because I went on for what, like that was like 9 minutes, guys. It's gonna be a thicker podcast, and I might chop it down to segments. So you know, so as long as I'm going just roughly under 10 minutes per segment, I'll be able to chop it down for you guys. But that's that for music, and I want to know what you guys think on that one. If you agree with my points, where music's heading. Personally, I digest everything. If it sounds good, I fuck with it, and that's also the problem. You know, I'm a part of the problem because I personally like lyrics. I write lyrics, you know, and I really like digging deep into the like to that about music. But then I notice I can't have those conversations with my friends because everyone's just on that. I just want the sound. I don't even give a fuck about the lyrics. So it's almost like a dead topic that I always have to keep within. Hence why I'm here making a podcast, you know, and a YouTube channel, so I get to talk about this stuff. But we're gonna hop off the music flex and hop onto another big topic that I really have my heart out for, and that's gaming, guys. I'm a crazy gamer. I'm that guy that, you know, I don't call myself spoiled, but there's anything that I wanted, you know, when N64 came out, I had the N64. Fuck it, man, we were spoiled as kids, I can't lie. Me and my brother, like, he got the PlayStation 1, he had the Dreamcast. I had every console that came out. I would have it, but not only have it, I would have it when it first came out. Like, it was just a want. And it would be like, I'll grab no other presents, whatever it is. I just want that. You could give me nothing for the year, just give me that. So I kind of worked for it in a way. But in any case, gaming, guys. Whew. I got a big heart for gaming, guys, because you got to understand, we could talk about how hard it is, how complex it is to not only code and create a game, but then there's the ideas and the thought process that goes into it, the music and everything and whatnot. And that's always been, keep that in mind when I say this, that's always been the notion. That has never changed. Coding may have gotten more complex due to having to render things in 4K, having to up the scales on the pixels, having to add more that the consumer wants in the game. But ultimately, the concept of you're coding the game, coding, you're just putting that effort into the coding and making sure everything's right, like, that's always been the narrative for creating a game. I'm no coder, but like, when you really think about it, generally that's what it comes down to. And through that, we've been priced at a certain amount for that work. So whether how many people it took to do it, how many hours, how much input they put into the game, we paid $50 for it. Let's say back in the 2000s, right? Games were $50, 49 something. I think I remember something around there for a AAA game. $50 Canadian. So that's what it was. And then I remember, and this was before Xbox 360 and PS3. This was the PS2, GameCube, Xbox One era, if I'm not mistaken. It was $50 to $60. And then I remembered, out of nowhere, there was that point where games went up like $10. Games used to kind of really stay at a stagnant price for a while, but then it moved up to like $60 when the 360 came out. And I was kind of tripping, like, whoa, like games were never really expensive back then because games weren't as big and in the industry as it is now. So when that happened, I remember, at least for gamers, we're like, whoa, buddy, like another $10. Like, we were calculating always in our head, if I bring $60 to EB Games or wherever, I get a game. It's gonna be $57. I bring an extra $1 to get the $3 warranty on it, and it's 60, 61, whatever. I'm out. My disc is protected. I have my game. But then it went to $60, and now I'm thinking now it's gonna be 67 or whatever it is, and now rounding it up, you're paying $70 for a game. So within like an instant, that shit went up to like $20, and we were like, what the fuck? Why? And I don't know. Maybe I was ignorant as a kid, but that's when the whole AAA flex came out. Because games, from my understanding back then, used to just be games. You released the game, either it was good or it was bad. Maybe the developer was known, maybe he wasn't known, but they would attempt to get on, whether it was Nintendo or PlayStation, that developer were trying to get their game onto the platform, and that was it. But now it's all like they pushed this whole AAA narrative, and it was the magazine era, so it's all like a AAA game just cost more money. That's what it was. It created a division between games where there was I don't even know if it was considered indie, but there was not AAA games, and then I guess AA games, and then there's AAA games. And even then, fuck it, whatever, sure. The games were good. Solo-based games were still striving at that time. People cared about the story, and there's a double-edged sword here, but when you paid that high price for a story-based game, when it kind of died out, then it was done, and it didn't even have playback ability, right? You still kind of saw the value in the game, depending how much effort they put into that game. But there was also at the time still those games with a bit of longevity where you had the online in the 360 PS3 era, right? Obviously Call of Duty and whatnot. You had like the PvP gameplay, but it's like now in this day, I link it back to corporate. Everything goes to money. Every action, every thought, every idea, every concept links back to money. There's no love or in the artistry of games anymore. And it's like, let's be real. There may be people in the industry that have that, but they're silenced obviously by the corporate. And where I stand is I kind of have that business mindset where it's like, I get it. It is what it is. You have to make $1. So it's almost like I can't disagree with the corporation side, because that's what business is. When you're talking in the line and in the spectrum of business, you don't get to speak on the moral, the morals of things, because there's no real morals in business. So it's an oxymoron. It's like you're contradicting yourself. So, but at the same time, there should be like a moral law where you don't mess with good things. You don't mess with things where it's gonna have a greater effect on society heading onwards. Like music, to take it back to that, is meant to uplift people. It's meant to bring a change in people. Bring a positive vibe towards people, bring people together. And now it's just a catalyst to make money. So sure, sick, making money is good. Now you can feed your family, but you just killed off a whole spectrum that was doing so much positive for people. And the same thing goes for games. And it's almost like the same thing I mentioned. Like, we always wanted hip hop and rap to be dominant. Now games have become so loud, it makes the same effect as music, but we lost the art and the love in the process again. Now it's a money hoarder. Now it's like, yeah, we're getting sick high graphic games, but they're half-ass completed because they put us on this mental cycle, waiting for the new game. Yeah, it's gonna be good and whatnot. And then when the game is released, it's half-ass, and we already bought it because we're just used to buying a new game when it comes out, and we're not checking ourselves. We no longer check ourselves, and we have to watch for that, because once they realize it, they're not going to stop. And you guys hear this from other gaming networks that are bigger than me, obviously. They're not going to stop. Why would I stop? If I sell you a piece of shit and you buy it, I am going to eat my life out so I can shit more and sell you more shit, because you're buying it. If you stopped, I wouldn't sell you any more shit, because the shit doesn't sell. And yeah, it's a dirty analogy. I'm sorry, but that's just what it is, because they're literally selling us garbage for the most part. And I'm gonna use a specific example, which is gonna hurt me, and that's Destiny. Bungie. It's like, literally, there's a good part of me that made this podcast just so I could finally talk about you guys. And during that whole Destiny 2 flex, I've made my comments on all the channels and whatnot. And I had a channel, and I know how to make, commentary. I could have did my thing and put my piece up, but I waited for all that to die out. I didn't want to be a part of that, whole hate group, because, it really hit me personally what you guys did. But to get into that, Bungie, man. Guys, Bungie, as you guys know, are the creators of one of the greatest games ever to be made. The game that honestly gave Xbox and Microsoft their lift in the industry, and that's Halo. Halo, personally, for me, even though I don't play it anymore, I don't follow it, was one, if not my favorite game ever to be created. From Halo 1, having the pretty good storyline, relatively good PvP. We could argue about the glitches and the issues, but it also had that PC Blood Gulch, download where you could play for free, where I believe ended up making that Red versus Blue show off of that client, what do you call it? That program on the computer, you could just play that one match in the PvP. But yeah, and then brought into Halo 2 with, I think, it had one of the best stories in video game history for a campaign and a relatively good PvP. Halo 3 is where it cuts off, had one of the best PvP experiences for me for online ever. And after that, it died out. But Halo, as you guys know, is one of the greatest games ever to be created, and the creators were Bungie. Off that one reason, just because they created Halo, when they came out with a game with very little information about, which was Destiny, I instantly took my Infamous 3 that I just beat that same day, I think that I heard, or the day after, and I returned it for Destiny 2 on a pre-order, like crazy time before it was released. I didn't even know about the game other than the little information that they gave out. But I said, Bungie, space, alien stuff is going to be another Halo. And I bet you almost like 70% of the people who purchased Destiny 1 was thinking the same thing to a certain point. Some people knew about the whole, they had this whole concept from like way before Halo that they just didn't bring out, like the really tech nerds and whatnot. But for the most part, the general consensus had no idea. So we just bought it off the limb that it was Bungie and they made Halo, so it's gonna be like another Halo because Halo kind of sucks after Halo 3. And for the most part, you tell me if I'm tripping. For the most part, when we played the game, everyone knows the vanilla Destiny, it sucked ass. And at this point in games, we weren't really sheeped to the point we were at now, right? It was like in the beginning of the flex. Like Bungie and a bunch of other companies are almost ultimately the reason for now we're stuck where we're at. But yeah, like for the most part, it was a shitty game. And when there's a shitty game, you don't play it, you don't support it, it dies out, it doesn't make money. But we stayed through all their bullshit, all the glitches, all the lags, all the lies, all the like blankness in the game because we said it's Bungie, it's Bungie. They're the AAA developer. They made Halo. They're fooling us, they're just cooking something up and they're just gonna throw it at us. And guys, when I was like, that game was 3 years of carrot on a stick. Anyone who plays it understands, like, ultimately for what it is, and we like for the community and how we enjoyed what the game was with the community is what made that game good. But when you look at it, the core of the game, it was pretty shit. It was bland. It made me feel like I was pro to be able to be one of the top people to complete things really quickly or whatnot. But you take other people play something like Dark Souls and they'll laugh at the game in a sense. Maybe I'm tripping, but it was very bland. And towards the end of it, they got their shit together, right? So get me. Towards the end, they got their shit together. So this is okay for a game, and it's okay for a game developer. And if I may add, this segment, it's going to be a bit longer because gaming is just, that's a bigger point to me. But that's okay for a game developer. During the stage of their game, you learn. There's bugs. As long as the ends, the ends will justify the means in the cases where I'm getting at, bro. Good job, Bungie. You did it. You made what was it? The Dark Below, or maybe I'm tripping. The one with Crota, the Crota's End. No, it wasn't Crota. Crota's father, basically. This is how off tuned I am. I used to watch, My Name's Bife, or for the lore, but to this point, the game disgusts me so much. I didn't even bother to remember this stuff. But that raid, basically, when that DLC came out, it fixed the game for the most part. It added a sense of longevity, a sense of chase, a real sense of chase for the first time. Everyone talked about it and whatnot. But even then, you have to know, we spent like an additional $100 and something on top in DLCs just to get to that point. And it's the double-edged sword where it's like, yay, we're there. But why the hell did we spend almost 2 times the price of the game to get where we should have been at in the beginning? Even then, we said, fuck it, sure, it's Destiny. So when they released the information that Destiny 2 was coming out, just like the Halo to Bungie, the Bungie, Halo to Destiny, we still had that belief that, okay, well, they fixed Destiny 1 at the end. So Destiny 2, even though they're trying to chintz us for just buying another game where they could just, prolong Destiny 1 as they initially mentioned for the 10 years, sure, give it another name, as long as you just like start where you left off and made it a bit better and then progressed, it would have still been one of the top games right now, I believe. But they just gave us ass. And we, at this point, a lot of people who play the game know, but I don't want to get too into it. But basically, there was something where they had the game completed for the most part, but the corporation, as I mentioned before, they didn't like the idea. And then you sit there right at that point, you're thinking, what the fuck does a corporation, people in suits, people who just really know maybe how to manage the money and market a product, know about the actual product? And we would like to think the people in suits maybe were like past gamers that got old, they got beards, and now they're just on their business shit. Nah, these are people that are exterior, that come in, who just have the ability to create more money, but they don't really know about the games. That's what the lower level people, the developers, are there for. But if there's a disconnect where you're not going to hear the developers who create the game and believe in their product and just kind of throw out your own narrative, without even knowing about the product, you kind of get where that's going. That's a calamity waiting to happen, and that's what the game industry is now, right? And I'm use Destiny as an example. So with that, they said, "No, we don't like it. Scrap it." And and this is Activision. And you guys all know Activision. Said scrap it and make it fresh. 6 months before the release, when they had 2 years or something to make the initial game. So you go as you will with how good you would think a game's gonna come out, right? And with that being said, whether or not we point fingers, it's like you get to the point where, okay, there's a lot of money on the line. What do we do? Do we tell our fans so they kind of cope with it? And remember, we went through a lot of shit. We're strong. We could take a big hit. If they probably came out and told us and, worked out through with it, it probably wouldn't be at where it's at now. But they decided to deceive us and sell us crap and let us work through it because they dragged us through glass for 3 years and we took it, so they may be able to get away with it again. But then they insulted us on top of that with microtransactions that took, rewards from the game that you would originally get from doing the game and put it into the microtransactions, making the game even more bland. But the stuff that they were selling for real money didn't even have real substance towards the game, so you didn't even want to buy it. But you ended up buying it because it was the only thing to do to make the game feel like it was worth playing because you paid for it. And you already bought the DLCs. So you got another 3-4 months to wait for and, skim a little bit of money towards it. And all this stuff is like analytically like done somewhere in their office, to take money from the consumer. And on the business side, I get it. Genius. You guys are smart. But like, why do you gotta kill the game in the process? Why do you gotta suck the blood from the animal, when there's just so much more you could have utilized out of it, I don't know, man. That's what I have with that, man. And if you want to get into microtransactions, they honestly, it's where it's at now is terrible, but for the basis of what they are, they've been in games since the beginning. When I was younger, I played Maple Stories, if you guys know. And when the NX Cash Shop came out, I think they created them. I think they may have been the first people to create like a cash shop or whatever. Maybe, I don't know. It could have been before my time. But when that shit came out, originally it was just cosmetic. And people bought it. And it's whatever, man. If you want your character to look nice, you want to look more like a raw character in the game, do as you will. But then they started adding things like Gachapon and like... eventually like something where like you'd be able to enhance your weapon to like a next level, and it was only through microtransactions. That's when the game became a divide, because it's like now to get to the next level I have to start paying. And it was one of those dice roll ones where like you got to keep buying and at a chance to get that thing, right? But they did it right because the way the market worked was you could kind of learn, just like business and economy, learn how to make money in the game to buy those things that people pay money to make, right? It just took more time, just like how it works now, right? But I personally like that because original RPG game players or people who play games like that concept, because with that growth, eventually it's like, okay, now my account has this value that your account may not have because I've been putting this much work into it. Whether you could sell it for an actual dollar or just have that feeling in the game that you've triumphed over so much others, and it's gonna take them that same time to get to the point that you got to. And also that value has been killed in games too as well, with the whole making everyone feel fair thing, like with Fortnite, right? All the dumbing down that they're doing in the game, to kind of kill the skill curve so everyone enjoys it, when games have always been about getting better and starting off sucking. And once again, to make a dollar, they're curving that around just so everyone's happy. And once again, I mentioned the game and the art and the love for it dies in the process. And the people who love, at the end of the day, love their family more, and they need to pay their bills, so they're gonna kill their what they love ultimately for a dollar. So there's the second point, and the second place we're at in life where once again the corporation and the concept of money kills the things that we love. And it almost feels like it's a different point we're getting into in the podcast, but that's still something where in the 2000s it wasn't like that, as I mentioned, right? It was more so they created games for the sake of creating games. They created games because they wanted to change a narrative, or people were bored and they thought something was cool, and it was just a better time. Now it's all systematic to make money, and that's pretty shitty because games now kind of suck, and it's good you're saving money, you're not buying as many games, but you buy a console for how much, how many dollars, and how often do you get to use it, due to the fact that games are so bland now. And if we hop over, guys, I'm not gonna get too into politics, but I don't get too much into politics. But what I find pretty funny is now where we're at is, if you guys remember back in the days, like in the 2000s or even the 90s, politics was very political, right? It was like, no, younger people didn't care because it was boring. Older people wanted to listen in, so they knew where their life was going to be narrated. And now it's like a reality show, and yeah, ironically, Trump, right? Trump is the president of the United States, and he was a reality host. He did the reality show and whatnot. He's a celebrity, so obviously, well, not obviously, but you'd see why the politics now are more of like a reality show, because the president was a reality star. So with that being said, why I say with the world when that's just America is because as everyone knows, America and like what America does ultimately affects the world, or people are always zoning into what America is doing. So if they see Trump and his antics and the stuff that he's doing, you know well, for one thing, I don't want to speak too much on it because that's not my country. I'm not trying to downgrade on someone else's country, but it's like, from my eye, I'm like, I don't know how this is even like going through, and I bet other people from other countries or people in Canada look at it like, how is this even possible? We're not anywhere close to the point where like our politics are like antics and they're like a joke, and like they're media, and like it's something that people just get to like talk about like that. Like it's still like in the background, people, if you don't really look for it, you won't hear about it, in our country at least. But there it looks like something like you pop on the channel to watch it like it's the Kim Kardashian show or something. And that's just messed up. That's I don't know, I just think that's crazy. It's like, to be able to do that, because you think about reality, people just zone in and watch. There's not really much content there. There's no substance. You're just zoning out. So if your politics, something that's supposed to be taken serious and something you're supposed to monitor, is now something that you just kind of laugh about and you zone out on, that kind of allows certain agendas to kind of be pushed without you knowing. And I'm not trying to sound like a conspiracist or a conspiracy theory person, but like just think about it logically. That kind of like, you're giving a pretty open window for someone to hop through. But go as you will with that. As I told you, I don't want to go too long on that. That might be its own little small segment, or it may snatch it in with the other one. But I don't know. I've been speaking for a while, but where I want to eventually tie it together, guys, social standards, man. Social standards. Where do I even go with this, guys? So you got to take in Instagram, social media, where we're at in society in the 2000s, and now in the 2000s, 90s, whatever. You got to think phones and internet was created in the 92, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. Around the time when I was born. So you gotta take in at that time. If it was just created around in the 90s, it was. I don't know, for anyone younger listening, it was a rough time, and I didn't think I'd say this, just like how like our parents before they say like, oh, we had this, you guys have it good, and we're like, damn, that shit's rough, damn, that shit was rough for us too. Like, I'm still living in the era, thank God we're like, I'm experiencing technology where it's at now, but back then, guys, it was like you had your computer, and even then you were lucky to have a computer. It was expensive as shit. And I don't know how, but like I had a computer. It was a Macintosh, I think. I gotta ask my mom how the hell we had that. But I used to always, like, what fun was pinball on the game. They had this maze game. They had this like these like just little 2-bit, like 8-bit looking 8-bit games. kind of thing. And that shit used to be amazing. That used to be like crazy. And like internet was something where like you had to get this AOL disc that gave you free internet, because I think internet was just crap ton expensive, and it was also connected through your phone line. So at the time, I think they didn't know how to separate the two. So if you were on the phone, you couldn't use the internet, and if you're on the internet, you couldn't use the phone. So you couldn't really play games or anything with longevity, because eventually your mom's gonna have to use your phone, dad's gonna have to use the phone, your brother's gonna have to use the phone or something, and then you're gonna have to get off the internet. You're on MSN, you're talking to your friends, and so you're on a chat group, and you gotta get off the phone. And as shitty as that was, it was like it was kind of cool. I don't know, it's kind of sick, because at the end of the day, if you got to get off the computer, you go outside and you go play soccer, ball, bike, go to, I don't know, a rec center, something. You get to interact with people. It allowed that division between the internet and that the social life on the web and actual social life. So a lot of things that we had back then, due to the lack of technology, kind of allowed us to be more like physically social. And I guess that kind of shows that, as further, obviously the further we get with technology, the more we're going to use it, but we don't take in the less we're going to like interact with each other. We never really take that in, right? We had, like, as I mentioned, less phone action. We didn't have social media. A lot of our interactions that we used to do in person have now been formulated into an app. And the shut-ins, which always wanted that, now they have it. But since social media is so strong and dominant, everyone who also is a social person is kind of forced to go on social media or mess with it, because everyone's there. It's like you could be the best talker in the world, but if not a lot of people want to talk, then you're gonna go get your type game on. You're almost forced to it, whether it's just general conversation, dating, like talking to people. It's like almost like we're two different people. Have you ever noticed, if you've seen a girl or guy on Instagram or Twitter or wherever it is, they're one person. You take them for that. Maybe you have that concept of them, and then you see them in real life and they're a totally different person. Whether it's shy to like very chatty to very shy, cocky to actually like, whatever it is, you find it ultimately that they're not who they were on the internet. And everything I'm mentioning is kind of obvious, but where I'm trying to get at is you got to take it in. Don't just leave it at, oh, well, yeah, duh. Like, we got to fix that shit. We got to somehow fix all this shit. Whether it's continue to talk about it, and there has been progression with gaming, and like with all the things that I've been bringing up, guys. Gaming is the only one really where like the people, the community speaks up, and then something gets done, because the corporation realized my money gonna get fucked up. So good for gaming, but the music industry is just in a down spiral, man, and it just sucks, because like the people who have the artistry. Like, the music, hip hop industry, rap it's black dominant, right? Let's be obvious. It's obvious, it's black dominant. And with that being said, like a lot of the time, the story of the individual who has that art, it derives from struggle. And with struggle, it's very easy for money to manipulate you, because ultimately your want for doing what you're doing is for money. It's just your struggle is almost the benefit, that your struggle is what's giving you those benefits. You're getting the money because you're using the struggle as the art to make the music to get paid. The end result's paid. Some artists back in the days, like 2000's or whatever, or even earlier from that time, remember, when rap and there was like more things to fight for. The music, even if they didn't get paid, there was some or a lot of artists that just did it for the sake of the music, the sake to make a difference, and through that they got paid. And you got to think with people with business, even they tell you, do what you love, and then through that, it'll grow probably bigger than if you're just doing it for money, because you'll be able to take it so much further. So that may pertain to why people's careers don't last as long in the industry now, if we're going back to music, than before, because of that reason. But we go back to the social stigma. I ain't trying to put girls down, because it could be a girl or a guy. But for the most part, if you're thinking about like Instagram or with imagery, guys, we don't really have the ability to do much masquerading. We don't have makeup. We don't got like the hair extension, all that. We don't. We and when we use filters, there's not much we can amplify ourselves with. And even if we did, we gonna be looked at in a certain way, because it's not really what guys do when they have a picture. It's not a masculine thing. So for the most part, when you're doing the filters and all that editing, the Photoshop, it's more something that girls do. And with that, I'm trying to show, like, you lose kind of that disconnect because you go social to reality. At the end of the day, you ain't doing a relationship purely based online. You got to meet the person. So why would you alterate your picture to the point where, let's be honest, it doesn't look like you? It's to the point where you're just totally changing how you look. And it is what it is. You're trying to get those like counts up. You're trying to make yourself look appealing. Do whatever you got to do. I'm not going at that. Situation is when you get to reality and then you meet the individual. Now it's like you're selling yourself. You're selling something that's not what it is. And even then, it is what it is. But if we ever look at the spectrum, is it bad if the person on the opposite end, the guy, like, judges that and maybe doesn't even want to continue it based on that? Because he probably is gonna end up looking like a dick. You're probably gonna think he's a dick. He's being a dick. He's being judgmental. And there goes the 2018 thing. If you're just being honest, especially also in this case where it's like, not only am I being honest, I'm being like tricked, kind of. It's like I'm not in the wrong, and I'm being honest in that case. You're still gonna get judged. You're gonna look bad. You can't say anything, guys. It's like it's crazy, man. I don't know where it is. There's a lack of. There's a disconnect in conversation now because no one wants to say anything. Because if you say anything, you get freaking rinsed. And it ties into my final point, guys. Aside from if I'm concluding with the corporations and the concept of chasing money is killing everything. Killing the likes, like gaming, music, is just destroying what it is. We also tie into the fact that what's going on. I know I'm kind of like all over the place, but my final point is in 2018, because we're done with the 2000s. I leave that at, those are like golden ages. They call it golden ages because things were not only simpler, it was like it made sense. People like did things for the betterment of things, and now it's kind of like one line to just money, as I mentioned. But 2018, guys, there's a Doctor, what do you call it? Dr. Oz in what's that movie? Wizard of Oz, Dr. Oz. There's a phantom. There's a dark mage. There's a selective like group of people, I believe, that somehow, and this is not some Illuminati conspiracy shit. This is just to say there's like this force, this small group that somehow obtained this power over the general consensus. And I think I figured out how they did it. And they didn't really do much. They just realized something. And what I mean is the whole 2018 thing. The 2018 thing where it's like you can't be honest anymore. You can't speak your mind. If you say anything, you're racist, you're sexist, you're any rape related joke, which is bad, I get it. Any rape related jokes, any racist jokes, any jokes that are funny are looked at as bad. It's to the point where comedians can't be comedians because on top of creating funny stuff, it's like an artist having to censor his own music while making his own music, like right at the same time, kind of thing. It's like I need to curse during the process of making my lyrics because that aggression is where it's gonna bring out other good lyrics. It's gonna bring out a bigger effect in my lyrics. But you only can imagine having to think at the same time how I'm gonna censor that shit out. It doesn't work. It's like I gotta do one or the other, and it's like if I do one and I gotta censor it back out, then what's the point? What's the point? Why am I gonna say something if one little line that people laughed at the end of the day is gonna get ripped apart on the internet? But then you think about it. I personally believe, fuck it, like it's a joke. If it sincerely is a joke, then fuck it. But we've lost even the point to like, we won't even know if it's a joke or not because everything's taken seriously. The context is lost there. And a lot of comedians and a lot of people don't want to conversate and say things and speak their mind because of that. And that leads an open door for certain agendas to be pushed, just like I said before. And what I believe the issue is the small percent of people, I'm not calling them stupid, but like irrational, let's say, just like they or radical, they have their own agendas that they're trying to push it, whatever it is, whether or not the general consensus agrees with it, or they want to actually allow the general consensus to agree with it. They're just gonna do whatever they can to push it. And if you have something that you believe in, hopefully it's positive, you want to push for it. That's you. You have the freedom to do it. But it's on everyone else who realizes that something that's being pushed is not right, as people, to stop it. And what I believe is the majority. And when I say like the small groups, like let's say 1% of people are controlling like 99% of the other 99% of the world. Because, and with social media, and why that is because in these instances, let's say when a celebrity or someone's ripped apart for something where the general consensus, if you look at it, just like myself, would be like, that's kind of stupid, that makes no sense, this is the real answer. That's what everyone is thinking. I think the majority of people in all these instances have a rational mind state on what's going on. But the people who take action and the people who actually make the comments and message and do the petitions and all that stuff is that 1%. So just like voting for a president, if you don't vote, and let's say only that one group for the person on the left votes and nobody that believed the person on the right voted, they just didn't go, that other person just wins like a landslide. It's just instant victory. There's no action on the other end. Even if a tenth of a percent, a 1/10 of 1% or whatever in the decimals took action, then it would probably overtake that, what I think is stupid notion that you usually see that's being pushed in many instances. And I don't know, it trips me out. It's almost like it's like an easy little paper door that we need to push, and we're just like, nah, I'm not gonna be bothered. Because a intellectual person or someone just in the right mind, for the most part, will observe the situation, they'll break it down, they'll get the answer from it, and then they'll just leave it be. It's done. It's like, okay, well, that's stupid, I'm not gonna waste my time with it. And that's fine. That's like almost the right thing to do, because why would you waste your time with it if you already broke down that it's not something worth your time? But if that thing is gonna end up causing a bigger, if the causation is gonna be a lot larger, and then eventually it's gonna be something that's gonna affect you, then maybe we should step in. And I don't want to give the example, but it's almost like with the whole Holocaust and Hitler, everything, right? It all started off just with a little propaganda and jokes and steering the narrative towards something. Then when it's all like, okay guys, now we're gonna do this, everyone's kind of like, okay, well, they trained the people in Germany at that time to be desensitized to hurt certain people for no reason. It was like a long phase of brainwashing through videos and skits and jokes and commercials and whatnot, right? To the point where people didn't care, and then they were able to push whatever narrative that they wanted to push, because the general population was just like whatever. And I hope that tied together with what I'm saying is like, so we should just take action, man. When you see something stupid being pushed on the internet, because the internet has more power than you think. The internet, it's almost like if it's on the internet, it's true, right? And that's what we know, like celebrity, one random person has a bad day because that celebrity didn't respond to them, and they go making that accusation, and the causation is so crazy, and it's like, off of that one thing, so you take that small, like I can't even fathom that. It's like, how does one person get all that power in that instant? The internet, it's very dangerous. So you gotta watch out for that. We gotta create some, I don't know, some sort of system, so like these weird narratives don't get pushed through. And with that being said, if you guys are, I'm not getting specific towards things, but you may yourself think I'm talking about something. If it's something that ultimately is promoting a change which would allow an individual to feel more comfortable in life, I'm all for it. Always all for it. I don't judge anyone off of anything just for the fact that if you're someone who has felt pain, you would understand that you would never want to inflict any type of pain on anyone else. And that should just be a more, an easy moral to live by. But what I don't like is when someone tries to force a narrative on someone else with no justification, no reason, no logic. Like, it's just, I believe this, I want you to believe this. Why? You don't tell me why. You probably don't know why yourself, but you believe it and you want me to believe it. And even that's fine, but you can't force it on me. And you shouldn't try to make agendas to have it enforced on people. And that's what's happening now. And even with that being said, I conclude, if we allow it, then ultimately it's our fault. If we don't do anything, the general, public, the majority of people, then it's our fault, right? So take as you will with that. We talked about a lot of shit in this podcast, and I hope something was learned from it. If I need to conclude it again, guys, don't let corporations take over. Don't let corporations take over the channel. Don't let corporations take over things and like artistries and industries that we hold dear, that have a bigger magnitude and effect on the world for what it is, more so than just a tool to make money, right? So if we somehow figure out that, and I don't want to say protest or whatever, just ultimately music, if that's what it is, don't digest it. And it's harder to just say that than do it, because that's the only thing we're getting. But no change is made without, some sort of sacrifice. So we would have to do something like that with gaming. If the game's shit and we know they're finessing us, don't buy the game. Don't buy the game. When we don't buy it and they don't make money, then they're going to change it. And then we buy the game. And then it's going to always, like, we have the power. We just allow them to just control us without doing anything. And in the bigger spectrum of everything, just this whole, as I mentioned, allowing that little percentage of people who take action to overwrite the majority of people, because we don't, is one of the bigger ones that we need to look into. So don't forget to subscribe to the channel, guys, if you're new. If not, and you subscribe, thank you so much. Like, we're going to be, me and Oscar, we're going to be putting work on this channel. We're going to be trying doing very deep topics like this, but also fun topics once I figure out what to, look into and talk about that you guys will want to hear. But yeah, click that bell too, so you keep tuned, because you stay tuned, sorry, because I'm not sure exactly when our posting schedule is going to be. But if you do click the bell, then you're going to be able to be posted whenever. So you guys already know what it is. This is Roy Savage. This is a cup of what's up. Take it easy.